All right. The starting OL, according to Athlon, quickly, Garrett, Ganem, Altuner, Meadows, and Remack. I like that starting five. I think those are the guys I would have expected to be the starters. That's who they listed. I'm pretty sure that's what Colby had coming out of spring. And putting Remack on the right tackle and Altuner in the middle all makes sense. And then you got Ganem, who was our highest recruit from in-house on the offensive line. He's finally going to get started. He seems like he's finally healthy. So that's a good step. And then you got Johnny Garrett, assuming the left tackle role. Now, that's probably the biggest question.
Yeah, I think left tackle is always going to be a question unless you have an NFL draft pick over there. Like, I think there's always going to be a question mark at that position. This five makes sense to me. It's crazy how young this group is, though. There's a lot of youth on here.
Well, I think Altuner is young. Remack is not. Garrett's really not either. Garrett's been around.
Garrett's. I was talking more. If you look at that, the guys behind him, Tommy Ricard.
Oh, well, yeah.
Lucas Austin, Aiden Lynch.
It gets thin.
It gets young really fast. And one of these guys is going to get hurt during the year, right? That's how football works. And I think it's going to be really.
Who's number 6? Like, if those are the starting 5, who's 6?
Cunningham.
Cunningham.
Yeah, he's a guy who has shown it in college.
Played college football, yeah. Started a lot of games.
Yeah. And I think he's a guy who can also. I don't think you want to put him at tackle, but he's played enough football where I think if you needed to move him from right guard to left guard, I know it's very different with the footwork because everything's opposite, but he wouldn't be a deer in headlights.
No, and he played tackle at Georgia State, right? That was his position.
Yeah, he did. And I just think something was weird about him last year.
Yeah.
Like he came in with a lot of hype and then never saw the field. Something weird was going on there. So he definitely needed a fresh start with the new staff. So,
well, we know that Crook was making some odd personnel decisions on offensive line. And so I'm excited to see what Moore decides to go with. But that was the starting O lineman. RB1 is Terrion Stewart, who we have not seen yet. But I was watching some of his highlights. Someone posted about him on X the other day. And God, is he a bowling ball?
He's so fun. I remember he had a game. It was a Maction game against Western Michigan, I think it was. And it was it was so funny watching him run because he had no blocking, but he was just I'm going to run directly straight down the field. And
they call him
dare
bully.
You to try to tackle. Yeah.
He's guys are calling him bully.
He's as north-south as it gets. And I think that works really well because Virginia Tech, again, we're going to have a new offensive line coach and a new offensive scheme, but is very inside zone heavy, always has been. And so I think he fits that really, really well.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for Terrion Stewart. I think he could, this is a hot take, really hot. Of everybody on the offense, I think Terrion Stewart has the most potential all ACC out of anybody on the offense.
Yeah.
Because he could put up some really big numbers.
It depends on how they want to design it, but we've seen with Virginia Tech the last few years, the guys we had in-house were always better at run blocking than pass blocking. We've been over it a million times. Everything's changing. New OC, new offensive line coach. But you bring this kid in, you want to run the football with this guy. And then they had Hawkins at 2. And then we got Braylon Bennett, who is a pretty good receiving threat as well as a running threat.
I like Bennett. I like him a lot. And then you also have Prelude.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
PJ is there too. So I like the way the running backs room is sitting as long as we get what we think we're going to get out of Stewart. Because if he is the one, everyone else kind of falls in line behind him. I don't really want any of those other guys to be the one. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
All right. At the end, Jonkum and Bell were the starters. And so that's just kind of fascinating. Despite whoever we had in-house, we just went with the 2 newbies at DE1, and then at DT1s were Gilliam and Copeland. No surprise there. Makes sense. 2 starting linebackers were who you'd expect, Keller and Woodson. And then we had IBM in the starting lineup as the nickel with knowledge behind him. The true freshman comes in as the backup nickel.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to see him get some time. He's one of in the slew of new coming DBs that we saw this spring, one of the guys who got a couple shout outs there.
For sure.
I think having him back there, it doesn't look like we'll have any Josh Clark at cornerback this year, so that opens up another slot of some playing
They
time
have
for some young
Thomas
guys.
Williams at CB1,
Yeah,
opposite of Lovett. So it was Lovett and Thomas Williams as the starters. And I know whenever I hear about Williams, I'm like, is it Christian? Is it Thomas? And Thomas was the one that had a couple kick returns where he
Yeah.
looked pretty good. So he has a chance to get on the field in a couple different ways here. So that's probably right, but they might not have had the Hawaii kid on
No,
here.
I believe this was written before his commitment. This
Yeah.
is written like as spring games are happening is when this
the
is
spring
really getting
transfer
ready.
window. Not a ton of those guys make the cut into.
Yeah, I need to check if he's still on Hawaii. I thought I was going to do this.
That's
I'm gonna check if
actually
he's
that's a
still
good
on Hawaii.
That's a good point. And then the safeties were Reddish and Tyson Flowers. If you guys haven't watched Colby's interview with Tyson Flowers, he posted it to X. It's a must watch. And Josh Pate even retweeted the interview. So that's how good the interview was. But I love this Tyson Flowers kid, man. He seems like seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders, and pairing him with a young and talented Reddish is very exciting. And you got Ellison Koval right behind them.
I think you're going to see a bit of a flip flop between IBM and Sherrod Koval. Who's that fifth guy back there? I think that's going to be your.
That makes sense. Yeah, Koval is a veteran, and he was even after his injury at Clemson, he came in and played decent for them.
Yeah, but I think that's going to be your switch. Do you have a nickel out there? Do you have a third safety back there, or do you maybe drop both of them and bring in somebody? Like a Caleb Spencer to be your third linebacker, like a whip guy. I think there's a lot of flexibility here with that back seven.
Definitely.
And I'm really excited to see how they use it.
You've got, I don't know, 7 different guys that could start at one of the safety positions, whether it's Caleb Spencer or the actual safeties or maybe a corner. Like there's a lot of different guys that could IBM.
4 safeties who have started multiple FBS games at safety.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. There's and that's not including a guy like Knowledge and JoJo Krim, who just came in and got so much love from Coach Pry and the staff over the spring. All right, random player notes from the Hokies. Tucker Holloway, first team all ACC punt returner. That's pretty nice considering he's coming off an injury. He still got the recognition of how good he was at punt returner 2 years ago.
What if he was just like the next, like Devin Hester?
You know what I was thinking? Dwight Lightning. Remember what the heck? The Iowa kid, Dwight. He played in the Super Bowl.
It's
God damn it.
Iowa.
Tim Dwight.
White. Okay, because you were saying white Iowa kid who played in the Super Bowl, and I'm like, Pete, how are you not yelling Cooper DeJean right now? But like,
Cooper DeJean, the return man.
As a Browns fan, I mean, Josh Cribbs played quarterback in college, but like, I want a Josh Cribbs guy. Yeah. He just catches the ball and runs. Like that's all he does. That's his position.
That could be a weapon for us. If Tucker is back to
it really could.
The way he looked, because he was electric on punt return. I mean, it could really be a weapon. And this team needs that. We need that X factor.
We need like 2007, 2006 levels of Beamer ball to be successful this year. Like, I don't think this is a Virginia Tech team who's going to outgain you by 100 yards and stifle you to under 200 yards of offense. Like, you're going to have to win the turnover battle every game. You're going to have to win the penalty battle every game. You have to win special teams every game. And then you hope that your offense makes enough plays and your defense makes enough stops.
Win the yardage battle all game. Like you can't mess up, right? You got no double zeros on the field this year.
If they have that penalty again,
fire everybody.
I think there might be like things thrown on the field.
Yeah. Drones was not in the top 25 QB rankings in Lindy's. They ranked the top 25 quarterbacks out. He was not in there. I thought he might crack it because he was so high up last year on a number of these lists, but just wanted to note that. Tomas Rimac listed as the number 8 best guard in the country by Lindy's. Now, He's going to end up playing tackle probably, but it's interesting that they have him as a top 10 guard in the country. Like, that's not easy.
Would it surprise you if because he got, all Big 12 mentions last year and seems to have gotten better and better each year. Would it surprise you if he was like the random second team All-American guy? Like, I feel like the offensive line, you're like, oh, like, shoot, like Washington State had a first team All-American at tackle. Like, what
always
the
some
heck?
random schools that get in there.
It could be this guy because he's getting a little bit more hype than I thought he would get.
Now, to get on a All-American team as an offensive lineman, I feel like you do have to have a certain amount of name recognition.
Yeah.
And at least he's in this magazine, which is a step in the right direction. But you have to allow 0 sacks or very close to it. And I don't know. I don't know how they figure that out, because that's the hardest one because there's no stats.
I think it's just a lot of name recognition.
Yeah.
And he's getting a lot more than I thought he would.
That's true. It's true. And he was second team All ACC. So number 8 best guard in the country, second team All ACC and Lindy's. And then Dante Lovett was second team All ACC and Lindy's as well. And then John Love was third team. So a couple of All ACC guys across both magazines. Let's move to, before we get to where the teams are coming in the ACC, like predicted order of finish, which I know people are probably interested in. Let's talk about the unit rankings, and then we'll take a video break after that. These are the unit rankings from Athlon. You can see them on your screen if you're watching on YouTube. And we'll go down to Virginia Tech first. We have 2 positions that are within the top 10 of the ACC, and that is quarterback at number 9 and defensive line at number 9. Every other position, Sam, is double digits or beyond. Do you think that that's right, that the QB and the D-line are our best positions? Do you think there's a different position that should be higher?
I would put Kyron probably top 7.
He definitely can be top 7.
Like, there's absolutely no world where Thomas Castellanos is a better quarterback than Kyron Drones. That's absolute BS.
I don't think so.
We have so many data points on Thomas Castellanos being a bottom tier Power 5 quarterback, like bottom tier. So that's just ridiculous. I think
Kyron's beat him head to head twice, right?
Yeah, easily, handily. That doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like the wide receiver room is a little bit better than that. I think we don't have the experience there, but getting Tucker Holloway back, I think, will help pass catching more than people think. Donovan Green was a really productive player in the ACC. Cam Seldon, really highly rated.
Yeah, they're putting no love on Donovan Green's name with these.
And Aiden Green is a guy who we know has so much spark to his game. And then behind him, behind those guys, it's all 4 stars. Wiggins and Brody are the 4 stars behind them. So
it's the wide receivers
being a little bit disrespected here. Like, I don't
like who on Duke. I'm trying to think. Duke did have some good guys last year, but I feel like some of those guys left. I don't know.
Is Pankel still there?
I hope Pankel's not still there.
Pankel's been there since I was in college.
Yeah, right. But defensive line being one of our top positions, I think makes sense because I like the starting 4. If we get anything close to what Ben Bell was able to do at his previous stop and what Jonkum's ability could translate to at defensive end, I think that D-line is just because we still got Burgos back there. We got a bunch. We got Laws in the middle. We got all the transfers that came in. I like the defensive line. I think that could be definitely higher than 9. And I think I have a lot of faith in the DB group. I like the DB group.
It's totally new. And I think the DB group is such a schematic question. It's almost hard to rank them anywhere else. I don't think they're going to be the most talented group of guys, but schematically, they might throw quarterbacks for a loop all year.
They're number 10 for those listening. Virginia Tech 10 with the DBs, 11 at linebacker, 12 on O-line, 12 at wideout, and 12 at running back. Running back's another one that could surge way above this preseason ranking. But there are a lot of good backs in this league. Again,
there are. Are we done with Tech's rankings? Can we move on? Because
sure, yeah. Give me some notes.
North Carolina, holy crap!
It's low. It's
I mean,
low.
this is I tweeted it out like a few weeks ago. It was after Bo Atkinson is his name, correct? The defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
He transferred out, and I was like, this is the least talented UNC team since they were winning 2 games a year.
Well, they lost a couple linebackers too, didn't they? We got one of them in the spring window.
And so this is one of the least talented North Carolina teams we've seen in probably a decade, maybe more.
Yeah, because Mac was putting up a lot of good classes.
Even Larry Fedora was putting up good classes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I don't think we've seen a North Carolina team built this poorly in quite some time. And I also look.
You gotta do it.
Which one?
I know what you're gonna say. Go to your next note.
Wake Forest is really bad. But
I thought you were gonna say. I thought for sure you're going for Stanford.
Stanford is hilarious, but like it's not their fault.
There's 17s across the board. Every position they are last. That can't be true.
Pete, there's still a calendar note in my calendar to remember to bet Stanford over wins because they had so many good freshman players last year. Like all the best players in their team were freshmen. They had these spark moments. I was like, man, they're gonna pull some upsets on the farm. They have a little bit of talent. They've recruited decently well the last couple of years. All of that's done.
Like you would have been right if they didn't fire Taylor.
Is that as ground zero of a starting block as you could get for Andrew Luck?
And yeah, it is. I mean, look at this. This conference isn't even good, and they're in last at every position. I know that this is the Athlon people. They don't know everything, but this isn't good. That's as bad as it freaking gets. Yeah. And to think, Sam, that we decided to add Stanford and Cal for football reasons. These are 2 of the dumpiest programs in this conference. I know SMU was a good add, but we added these 2 before we added SMU.
Yeah.
And Stanford is a dumpster fire right now.
Both. And what's crazy is better. Who's in a better position for the future, Cal or Stanford?
I mean, I think it's Stanford. One, because richer history and richer recent history for sure. And Andrew Luck. I think that he is going to end up. His dad was a well-known college administrator for a long time. They'll get it right. Right now, what's going on at Cal with Rivera and the power struggle and a coach that Rivera didn't hire, but he's the GM. That seems messy to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they just lost Jaden Ott, Mendoza, all these other good players. They got screwed just as bad as Stanford, but Stanford actually had a kind of a reason for it.
Yep.
The Wake thing, they are 13 or worse in every category except running back, which is because of Claiborne. He's still there. Yeah.
That's I'm not totally sharpieing that game as a W for Virginia Tech because I've been a Hokie long enough to know when a team has one player, just one that you have to stop, usually Virginia Tech can't stop that player in any sport. And so they are going to just kind of hand him the ball off and see what happens. I don't think they're in total rebuild mode. I don't think they're going to be any good, but he's a very, very talented running back.
So you mentioned UNC being bad. They're double digits across the board. The other teams double digits across the board. Syracuse, UVA, and Cal. And of course, Stanford, which we already talked about.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. I mean, no one's expecting anything about UVA. I thought Q's was interesting that they're that low on all these rankings.
Yeah. I thought something that was really interesting was I'm trying to find the exact quote I found for this, but it was basically Fran Bound wasn't willing to pay some of the guys who wanted to stay at Syracuse. And so they lost. They were always going to have attrition due to graduation, but they lost way more than they even expected. It's a totally different team. I think Syracuse might struggled to make a bowl game.
That's a problem that goes back a number of years. Babers always had a tough time retaining anyone decent. It was really difficult. And I think Fran Brown, correct me if you think this take is too wild, but I think after year one, he comes in, they have this really fantastic year. Do you think he's feeling himself a little bit? Letting a few too many guys walk?
I also think I really like him, and I think he's a really good coach, and I think his players really like him. I think he's a guy that other coaches really want to beat. Like, you don't want to get beat by Fran Brown, because it ends up being like when Virginia Tech got beat by Fran Brown and he quote cards you to death.
Yeah.
I think Syracuse has a bit of a target on their back this year, and it's not a good year for that because they have one of the toughest schedules in the country. And
is it that tough? Like, because they start with Tennessee, right?
They play Tennessee and Atlanta. They play at Clemson, at SMU, at Miami, and at Notre Dame.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
They do not return an offensive player with over 275 yards of offense in their career.
Return, but did they get any in the portal that were decent? I mean, you don't have to go through their whole roster.
They got LSU's third string quarterback.
Oh. We think Angeli's going to be the starter there, right? We think.
No, I think it's Ricky Collins.
You think it's going to be Collins?
LSU. Yeah,
I know that it was it's a battle, but
yeah. The only guy that they have that I think has like performed in college before is Justice Ross Simmons, and he was like supposed to be a big guy and was just a non-factor last year. So they might have a tough time this year.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. Sophomore slump for Fran Brown. All right, let's take a break to talk about our sponsor. Two Deep Hokies Under the Influence is brought to you by Roback. It was a good day for Roback across the country, Sam. Father's Day. Hope you guys got
huge day.
20% off, but if you didn't, you still can. Use code 2DEEPVT. Go to roback.com. Find all the Virginia Tech stuff. They got the Hokie Tracks polo. They got the white quarter zip. They got the white hoodie. Those are the more recent things. But they have a whole line of Virginia Tech gear, as well as all the other colleges that maybe your father went to, or your mom, your brother, whatever. A lot of houses have more than one school. So use code 2DEEPVT and get 20% off your order at roback.com. You can get women's stuff. They got the tennis skirts. They got the little dresses. Of course, the quarter zips and the hoodies and the joggers. But the polo selection is unmatched. And when it gets hot, you want to be wearing a Roback polo on the golf course. Sam can attest to that.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to ACC predicted order of finish. Last year, Tech was in these top sevens. This year, not so much. I had to add them to the bottom of the screen. If you're watching,
sad.
If you're watching on YouTube, Lindy's has Tech at 12th in the ACC. Athlon has Tech at 11th in the ACC. The top seven varies a little bit, although the top three are the same in both. It's Clemson, Miami, SMU, the set order by both magazines. After that, you get a mixture of Louisville, Georgia Tech, Florida State, and then Lindy's is higher on Pitt, Athlon is higher on Duke. And I think I'd have to agree with Athlon on this one.
Yeah, I don't understand quite the Pittsburgh hype. I understand they had a lot of injuries last year, so that might be, hey, if they don't get those injuries, are they a little better? And Desmond Reed is one of the best playmakers in the ACC, so I get that. But I just think the culture they've built at Duke in that first year, and even going back to the Elko days as well, really, really solid. But I think for me, Lindy's not having Georgia Tech a little bit higher here. Like, if Haynes King can stay healthy, which is a big if because he hasn't done that in his entire career, but that Georgia Tech team has a lot of pieces. Now, they also had a ton of incoming players, so I think there are a lot of question marks on that team, but Haynes King is the kind of guy who can take over a game. And you look at their schedule and like,
it's not
an easy schedule.
But if you're talking about ACC play,
there's very few unwinnable games on their schedule for ACC play. And I
mean, they almost won the Georgia game last year. So what the hell do we know, right? Like they were. I mean, King is a freaking dog. And
they get Clemson early, September 13th. They host Clemson.
Oh wow,
that's a huge, huge game. And then if you look at the back half of their ACC schedule, they have Virginia Tech, at Duke, Syracuse, at NC State, at Boston College, Pitt. Like they could very easily go 6-0 in the ACC to end the season.
If you're Georgia Tech, you want to play Clemson early in the season before your depth gets dinged by injuries. Like you'd rather take them on early. So that works out well for them. I also think, and I said this on a pod with Robert when you were away, I think Haynes King is the best quarterback in the ACC. Like if you just gave everyone the same team, I think Haynes King would win the most games, more than Carson Beck, more than Jennings. Obviously, I'm talking about health here. Like if everyone's healthy, I just think Haynes King's the best actual college quarterback, better than Klubnik. And so
give me Klubnik, but I would put King at second.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I like Georgia Tech. That's why I agree more with the Athlon rankings because they have GT at 5, they have Duke at 6, and they have Florida State at 7th. And I don't think Florida State deserves to be any higher than that.
No.
And Lindy's has them at 4, has FSU at 4. I don't see that with Castellanos at QB coming off the disaster they just had.
A team that's also not being talked about a ton because they, yet again, just complete transfer overhaul. Louisville has a lot of talent on that team. And I think Miller Moss is like the perfect quarterback for Jeff Brom's system.
Yes.
I would not be surprised to see Louisville in the ACC title game for the second time in 3 years.
Miller Moss is the best ball of clay that Brom has had in his 3 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's
better than Plummer. Way.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect way to describe it too.
Because he's talented. That Miller Moss kid, if Brom gets the most out of him, he's going to be dangerous. And then UVA, not on the graphic, but picked 14th and 15th respectively. So about where they were last year, about where they deserve. Last place in Athlon was Stanford. Last place in Lindy's was Cal. So there's your Bay Area right there. All right, ACC notes that I had. 9 teams, Sam, in the league changed defensive coordinators this year. That's over half of a 17-team league. That's a lot of new defenses. And we play a number of them. Pitt's running back Reed was first team All-American in Athlon.
So he's second team All-ACC in Lindy's.
He's the all-purpose back on All-American.
Yeah. I mean,
but still, Pitt running backs, great history. I just didn't think Desmond Reed would be All-American caliber. So that's pretty fascinating. Clemson's defensive linemen, Woods and Parker, are both first-team All-American, but that was a lot more to be expected. Klubnik, second-team All-American. Arch was first-team All-American. Never really played a full game. What do you think about Arch being first-team? Selling magazines?
First off, yes, selling magazines. Second, I think there is a chance that Arch Manning is just like that dude, and we see him put together a really crazy Heisman season.
If you look at the number ones in these mags, I mean, Texas is number 1 on the cover of Lindy's. Like they think he's going to do it. On my Athlon, it's Arch.
I mean, as just a fan of college football, he for me feels like Trevor Lawrence and some of these other big time recruits who you just root for because it'd be good for the sport if they are good.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of feel about him. Even like Travis.
You want to kind of see him he's a Manning, right? Like it's football royalty. Like you want to see him do something.
It's going to be much more fun if he's crazy good. Like if he is the third Manning, it's going to be much more fun as a football fan if he's like that. So rooting for him.
So mentioned Clemson and Klubnik and their All-American status. Clemson, best D-line in the country, and Lindy's second best D-line in the country in Athlon. Very high opinion of Clemson's DL. Second best wide receiver unit in the country on both. That really shocked me, is because it's something we haven't seen since maybe Mike Williams when they had, who's the guy on the Bengals? They had that group of wide receivers at Clemson. The guy who just got a bunch of money for the Higgins.
Yeah.
They have not had the wide receiver talent there, was what I was trying to get at. And this is second in the country in both magazines. That's crazy.
This is the best team they've had since the Natty teams. And I think it is somewhat likely that I gave this on a hot takes. It was Robert, Brett, and I on the pod. And my hot take for college football going forth is not only does Clemson win the ACC and make the college football playoff, I think they're the number 1 overall seed. I still kind of feel like that.
Because you don't think they're losing a game.
I mean, they play LSU week 1. LSU has lost their last 5 season openers. Did you know that?
They're not going to lose ACC regular season.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Going back to their wide receivers, T. Higgins, Justin Ross, and Hunter Renfrow, all at once, right?
Mm-hmm.
All those guys were on the same team. That was ridiculous. And before that, I think when we played them in the ACC title game, I think that was Mike Williams' year and a couple of those other really good guys. But anyway, they're back in terms of the skill talent, I suppose. Now, running back for them is a question. There's no Shipley. There's no who was their lead back last year?
Maffa.
God, I'm struggling with the names right now. It's getting late in the pod, but that's their really only question on skill is who's going to be the running back.
Yeah.
Do they have a replacement there?
They like this Gideon Davidson guy, but I agree. I think if they're going up against, I could see a team, especially later in the season, just kind of drop guys back and say, like, we dare you to find a running back who's going to break that first tackle.
Yeah. One thing that Clemson has to fix from last year, Sam, is that run defense. And
that was huge.
And they're bringing back most of the guys on the deal. I think they might have added one. They added one big transfer. Oh, it's the kid from Purdue. They did add on the D line, but it's a lot of the same guys. And so I know there was health issues, but I'm not so convinced that this, I said this on a different show, and there's been a lot of shows this spring, but like, this is not the 2017 defensive line on Clemson. I know it's good. I know it's number 2 in the country, number 1 in the country, depending on the magazine. It doesn't compare. And I know that was special unit, but I'm trying to, like, they have questions. Like this, they can be number 1 all they want in these magazines. They got run all over by the Citadel.
Tom Allen.
Okay.
Coming in. That's your answer. That's your hope. It's something I did highlight in the magazine. Compare this to the hires Virginia Tech has made with their last 3 defensive coordinator hires. 30 plus years as a defensive coordinator or head coach at the Power 4 level.
That's Tom Allen, you're saying.
Versus 3 consecutive defensive coordinator hires that have never been a defensive coordinator at the Power 4 level.
At least Cephas has been one and in D1. And I'm using D1. I'm stretching it as far as I can.
Rooting for you, Sam Cephas, buddy. Trust me. We're rooting for you. But
you
man,
really
oh man. Man, oh man. I mean, they're taking, like, Tom Allen, like 4 years ago, won 10 plus games in the Big Ten as a head coach.
All right. Last note on the ACC opponents before we do Vandy and a couple other ones, and then we'll move to the final schedule stuff. Miami, 4th best offensive line in the country, according to, I think that was Athlon. I don't know. One of these two, 4th best offensive line in the country.
Good. That's Mario Cristobal. That's his bread and butter. They're going to be very good there. They've recruited very well.
That's going to help Carson Beck a lot because he should have a running game to work off of, and he doesn't have to. I mean, in some of those games last year, Sam, he threw it 40 times. Like it was not Kirby Smart football.
No.
All right. Opponent notes outside of the ACC. Vandy's tight end Stowers. We need to talk about this real quick. All-American in both magazines. First team, Vandy's tight end Stowers, who only had 2 catches for 46 yards against us last year, but hadn't really broken out yet.
Yeah, and they also, he's a guy who like the way they run that option, some defenses will take him away and say, we're going to play we're going to one-on-one beat the run. Some defenses just attack the running portion of that option, and then they just dump it off to him. Yeah. So it's going to be like, he's going to have up and down games, but his talent as a player is really, really high.
Yeah. He had 3 100-yard games, 5 touchdowns, 638 yards, and 49 receptions. 49 receptions for a tight end. That's a lot. And that consistency, what you just said makes a lot of sense. That the way they run their offense, he could be boom or bust. And I'm kind of grateful they didn't watch the Rutgers tape before we played them because he might have had a career day against us.
I mean, yeah.
Tight ends do historically and last year, there were times when we really struggled against tight ends. So I don't love this. It's going to be a question of what Megamind Sam Cephas can come up with.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope he does something.
Moving to South Carolina, D.E. Dylan Stewart on their defensive line. First team All-American in both magazines. Sellers, 6th best quarterback in Lindy's overall in the country. 6th behind Klubnik, Nussmeier, Manning, Aller, and Beck. And then in Athlon, he had South Carolina as the 4th best QB unit. 4th in the country, Sam, because they're factoring Aaron Noland into that, I guess.
Does it feel like it is like Lenore Sellers and like a ragtag group of guys?
A little bit. I mean, I know Stewart is really good.
Yeah, but I mean, they
have one guy on each side of the ball. That's
it's a really, like, the hype for them is really weird because it's almost reverse of what we normally see in college football. Like, we normally see the hype for the teams that do return a lot of those guys or did bring in a lot of guys. They did well transfer portal, but
not.
They're counting on him to be a Heisman Trophy quarterback.
They are. And I mean, Todd McShay said he could be. I think he might have said he could be number 1 overall if he played to his potential.
He could. It's really interesting because I don't think we've seen an SEC team like that in a while. That's just like the quarterback stud.
But can a second-year starter in Lenore Sellers, which all the schools have a full year of tape on him, can he carry them to a top 15 finish the year after South Carolina had their best year since Spurrier and maybe their best year in terms of NFL talent in 30 years? I mean, the amount of guys that went to the combine, it was 11 guys at the combine on this team. They lost a ton.
Yeah, they did. I mean,
we're
about to find out. Pete.
I hope it's too many.
We're about to find out. That's a really interesting matchup week 1, man. It really is so interesting.
So much hanging in the balance. All right. So last note, Jason Henderson still on ODU.
I don't understand.
How can he still be there? He's the number 13 inside linebacker in the country, according to Lindy's.
If there is he's got to be close to the career tackles.
It's got to be.
He's got to be.
He's had some injuries, but he's played some really outstanding seasons, and they juice his tackle numbers, as we talked about in the show before.
I mean, is he collecting a 401k at Old Dominion or something? Oh my gosh, dude.
He's definitely got a couple kids or something, right? I mean,
shout out to Uncle Jason Henderson.
Oh man. All right, so our schedule.
He's very good, though.
But that's all I have on the opponents and the particular notes. Let's just talk about the teams in general. Our schedule versus the rankings. Our hardest games. If you put the magazines together, hardest games are Miami, South Carolina, and Louisville. Top 30 teams in both publications, all 3 of those teams. So we have 3 elite level hardness games, I would say. Let's just call that the hardest: Miami, South Carolina, and Louisville. Mm-hmm. Our easiest games. Obviously, we're hoping for Wofford. They're not in this magazine, but we're hoping Wofford's one of our easiest games. ODU, they came in at number 95 and 103. Cal came in at 77 and 100. Wake, 80 and 68. And UVA at 69 and 73. So those are the 5 easy games. Mm-hmm. UVA being the most difficult, according to these rankings, of those games. And then right in the middle, we got GT, Vandy, Florida State, and NC State. And of those, I think GT is the toughest. Maybe Vandy, maybe Florida State. Maybe, I know that's a tough one, right?
At Florida State, if Florida State gets a little bit of momentum at Florida State at that point in the year, could be pretty tough. Mm-hmm. But I think that's going to be a pretty fired up team to play Vanderbilt, no matter what happens in Atlanta.
And it's at night.
I think at Georgia Tech is just going to be tough if Haynes King is healthy. If Haynes King isn't healthy, the Hokies are going to win that game. If Haynes King is healthy, the Yellow Jackets are going to.
It's Bobby Dodd, man. It's not a
weird
good place.
It's a weird place. It's been very 50-50 for Virginia Tech. Like, you've had some highs, you had some lows. I think that game and the NC State game are genuine toss-ups.
They are, and they're both on the road, and so yeah, who knows? But those are the middle games, I'd say, and it's you stack these up over the rankings, and it's funny that you see Miami number 10 in both publications. That's a bit higher than I kind of was expecting.
For me, it felt like somebody had to be that high. Like, I'm looking across the country and I'm like, okay, who else would I put in there above them? I don't know if I have great arguments for a bunch of teams. I do think they're bringing over one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They have an elite offensive line. They have one of the best pass rushers in the country in Ruben Bain. They have recruited one of the best in the country. Like, yeah, I mean, they're probably going to be up there. Do I think they finish there? Probably not. But that's how these preseason things work. Like, it's recruiting numbers and returning quarterback, and that's pretty much it.
If you want to go right to like the numbers of it, 3 top 30 games and only 5 consensus top 50 games. And I say consensus, I mean the 2 magazines having both teams in the top 50. So 3 top 30, only 5 consensus top 50. That kind of makes you think we could finish 7-5. Like,
I would take 7-5 right now. Like, on June 15th? Are you signing up for 7-5?
I mean, I don't want to sign up for 7-5 because I'm always hoping we could be better. But when we finish 6-6 so often, like, we haven't been 7-5, Sam, since 2019.
I mean, if you finish 7, like, you could lose those. If you lost those 3 games, the big 3 games, and you lost the 2 road games, NC State, Georgia Tech, there's your 7-5.
So you're asking me, do I want my best season in 6 seasons?
To not have any big wins.
And just sign up for it today.
And you just you beat 5 like basement dweller teams, and you get a win against Wake Forest. Your 5 bottom dweller teams,
and then you beat
revenge on Vanderbilt,
and you beat NC State or something.
And yeah, sure.
So you're 7-5. Sign up for today. Best season in 6 years. That's the saddest part about this.
That's a turn.
That's a turn.
Hey, Pete, what if I could give you the best season in 6 years?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, literally 2020, under 500, 21, 6-6, right? 22, 3, 23, 6-6, and then we won the bowl. And then, so yeah, we have not been 7-5 since we went 8-4 in 2019. That's 6 years, man.
I'll give you something. They host Louisville and they host Miami. I think they win one of those games. I think Virginia Tech is due for a big win at home. They're going to be like
Miami. They got to be Miami.
They're due for one of those games. South Carolina, Vanderbilt. I think they win one of those games.
Miami has the potential to
be
even if we're not having a good season, it won't matter. It's no matter if they call it a rivalry or not, it's a rivalry to us. So we could be having a bad season. They could be top 15, and it would be awesome to take them down in Blacksburg late in the year. They have those late season. Did you look at the end of Miami's schedule and tell me what you see? Because I know what's on there, and it's hilarious.
M comes before N. Okay. At SMU, Syracuse, NC State, at Virginia Tech, at Pitt. Yeah, they're going to lose both of those games. It's going to be 30 degrees both games.
At Tech, at Pitt.
Oh, they're going to be so cold. Carson Beck is so skinny.
Bad.
He's going to be so cold.
That is so bad, dude. That's a terrible ending.
Okay, so they're going to...
So the biggest discrepancies between the two mags were Cal, 23 spot discrepancy, 77 in Athlon, 100 in Lindy. So Lindy's is just out on Cal.
It could have to do with when they were written.
Maybe.
Cal lost a lot of guys late too.
Yeah, maybe Athlon went to print before Ott left, and then you have Vandy at 40 and in Athlon and 63 in Lindy's.
It's crazy.
So so those are both 23 spot gaps between those two publications. And then Wake was much smaller, but the third largest, which was 12. Wake was 80 in Athlon, 68 in Lindy's. A game we should win. We're at home. That's basically an average of a 74 ranked team. We're only do you know what we are, Sam?
We're 50. We haven't said that, have we?
Yeah.
55 in Athlon and 50 in Lindy's.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not like we're way better than Wake in this. Like we should be better, but it's not like a crazy amount better, which is sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
According to the rankings, I think one thing these magazines they struggle with, if you've raised your talent floor, which I believe Tech has over the last 3 years, they have a hard time accounting for that because they haven't seen much of it. The reason South Carolina is at 12 and 13 in these two mags is because they've seen Lenore Sellers and he's the quarterback. And so they're like, okay, one of the best quarterbacks is back. They're a top 15 team. And Kyron sucked last year, and that's what they see. And they're not seeing, Aiden Green didn't really shine last year. He played good, but we're expecting a lot from him. We're expecting a lot from a Caleb Woodson, someone that they know is a returning starter, but maybe we don't have the hope that we do.
Yeah, I think there is a definite level of 5,000 foot view on all these teams. What I have found, I don't think refreshing is the right word, but the caveat of Kyron Drones having been injured all season long has been brought up pretty much everywhere I've seen. And I do think people are starting to understand, at the end of last season, it was really what a dumpster fire at Virginia Tech. And now I think people are starting to see the whole picture of a lot of things went wrong that were some in their control and some out of their control. And that they did make some changes that needed to be made. So I think Virginia Tech should feel I feel better about this season in June than I did in March, I would say. I just feel better about the guys we have on our team, looking at our schedule, looking at the opponents. I think there is a definite, I'll say it here. I think 6 wins is the floor, just looking at the schedule.
I definitely feel better about it now than I did.
Yeah. Because I'm not worried about Wake. I'm not worried about Cal. I'm not worried about ODU and Wofford. There's 4 right there that I feel pretty confident in.
So you just got to steal a few more.
NC State didn't get that much better. I don't know if Georgia Tech got that much better than they were last year. Yeah, I think there's a floor here.
And that there's going to be an FSU on this list, right? Someone who just completely stinks that you're not expecting. Someone who's really good that you're not expecting. And hopefully that really good team isn't on our schedule and the bad team is.
Wait, what if we were that team? Have you thought about that, Pete?
If we were this year's, who would you say, Georgia Tech, would you say from last year?
What if we were this year's Arizona State?
Dude, come on.
What if? Terry Stewart.
He's our Cam Scatteraboo.
Many people are calling him the next Cam Scatteraboo.
He's the black Cam Scatteraboo.
he's 5 inches shorter than Cam Scatteraboo, I'm pretty sure.
No, dude, Cam is short.
Is Cam short?
He's pretty short, dude. He's Turtle from the
Terry Stewart's pretty.
But anyway, make sure you subscribe Too Deep on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, the Sons of Saturday channel on YouTube. Make sure you're hitting up southwestvashop.com for the Too Deep merch. You can search in their search bar as well as Google. It'll come right up. And Roback, use code 2DeepVC to get 20% off your order. Rate, review, and subscribe. We really appreciate you guys.